And global affairs analyst Joshua Onyenwere joins me now from Finland via Skype to discuss this. Good to have you join us, Joshua Onyenwere.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just get your reaction to this. This is the latest now. Both sides are trading blames. The ceasefire is just barely a few months old, and we're seeing that there is some level of tension already.
Yes. The only reason why we are, here once again discussing these issues because by their very nature, empires must expand. And this is the core feature of an apartheid regime. And the irony here is that the Western media that virtue signals racism and Islamophobia has been silent on these recent provocations. Unless the provocation, triggers Gaza rockets flying into Israel, which is what the Israeli government wants, the Western media will continue to remain silent like they have done a couple of times. It's unfortunate what is happening, and we hope that, the international community will force the Israeli government, to restrain itself.
So let me just take a statement by the EU delegates to the Palestinian territories. They tweeted saying they are concerned over the ongoing tensions and urged that there be no acts of incitement. When you look at what is going on now, how concerned are you that this could become a threat to the already fragile stability in that region?
Well, very concerned. And this is not the first time that this is happening, especially when the holy months, when the Palestinians are fasting and in a state of prayer. So it raises some concern, and it's very unfortunate. This is not the first time. This is why it is so difficult, to go on and on and on about the same issue over and over again. If the Israeli government, doesn't restrain itself, there is a clear violation of, religious rights of the Palestinians. Their rights, even to existence and to worship, has been constantly violated. We talk about, Islamophobia in the media everywhere, but this is the highest of it, that people are discriminated based on their religious beliefs and but based on their identity. So for the fact that you are a Palestinian, the Israeli forces reserves the right at the time of worship to come into your place of worship and force you out, to allow over 1,500 Israeli illegal occupants to go in, and occupy your territory. It's unfortunate, and it raises some concern, a lot of concern, because, the irony here is that Gaza hasn't responded, and Gaza knows that. They know that if they start to, send in rockets again, this is where the Western media will come up and say, okay, flash news. Gaza is sending in rockets. But at the moment, nobody's saying anything. Israel has continued to violate the ceasefire agreement. Even at that, Gaza didn't respond. So it's just unfortunate and raises a lot of concern.
All right, so you say that now because we know that it is a Muslim holiday just around the corner. But you remember when it was 2 years ago and a Jewish and Muslim holiday coincided? We saw what happened, because that mosque is a holy site to both states, whether Israel or Palestine. And sometimes you're going to have holidays from both sides coincide, and we see how that turns up. But doesn't that say to you that perhaps it is now time to look for or to figure out a permanent solution and not all of these makeshift strategies we've seen in the past few years?
Definitely. But, the triggering factor here is that the Israeli occupation forces is forcing the Palestinian worshippers from the mosque. This is what is triggering this protest. It is not, what has happened 5 years ago, which if you begin to dig in deeply into it, you will see that the main provocator is the Israeli government. And, on the contrary, what we were expecting from Naftali Bennett, the new Israeli prime minister, on the contrary, what he is doing right now isn't what is expected of him. And it's unfortunate that it is happening.
And I absolutely agree with you that holy months and holy holidays on both sides should be respected when both sides want to use the mosque. But my point is to avoid this kind of clashes going ahead. What is a permanent solution? Because really, makeshift agreements have never worked over time. And so perhaps it is time to then look for a permanent solution and ensure that all sides respect that agreement.
Yes, there have been talks about, two-state solution, which Israel has consistently violated, and also talks about Israel, rolling back its expansion, campaign. But that also hasn't been achieved as Israel has continued to expand. Why this is important is because we have seen this happen in South Africa during the apartheid regime. It's exactly what is happening. It's like the same, blueprint, the same, strategy being adopted. Perhaps it's going to take another 10 years before the whole world catches up and then realizes that, hey, there has been a clear violation of the rights of Palestinians here. Many solutions have been provided by the international communities, but many of those solutions have been violated consistently by the Israeli regime.
And perhaps it's time for the international community to put its foot down and decide on the way forward and look for ways to ensure that all parties respect such agreements. Thank you so much for talking to us, Global Affairs Analyst Joshua Onyenwere.
Thank you for having me.